Alright, so let ES talk about Tesla and this whole idea of whether we're actually fixing the plastic waste problem with technology. I mean, we all know Tesla for their electric cars, right? Super sleek, super fast, and Elon Musk tweeting wild stuff at 2 a.m. But there's this bigger question floating around. Is Tesla actually helping us out with all the plastic junk piling up everywhere? Or is that just wishful thinking? So, picture this. You're cruising in a Tesla, feeling good about not burning gas, maybe listening to some classic rock or your favorite podcast. You look around and everything inside the car just feels different. It is not the old school leather or cheap plastic you'd find in your Uncle Always at 98 sedan. Tesla's been making a big deal about using more sustainable materials inside their cars. Like they ditched leather a while back, no more cowhide, everything's vegan leather now. And get this, some of that soft suede-like stuff on the seats, it's made from recycled plastic bottles. Yeah, the same kind you toss in the blue bin after chugging a sports drink. Now before we go any further, if you're into these kinds of deep dives tech environment, how companies are actually changing things or just pretending, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel a ton, and you'll get more of this straight talk, minus the jargon. Alright, back to Tesla. So they're not just using recycled bottles for seats. They've actually patented some pretty cool stuff for making dashboards and other interior bits out of recycled materials. We're talking about using things like old paper, bamboo, even stuff like desert sand and mushrooms. Yeah, mushrooms. Not the kind you put on pizza, but the kind that can be turned into biodegradable panels. It's wild how far material science has come. But here's the thing. Tesla is not just slapping this stuff together and calling it a day. They're making sure all these recycled and plant-based materials can handle the real world. I mean, think about it. Your car sits in the sun all day. It gets freezing cold in the winter. Sometimes you spill coffee or your dog decides to chew on the armrest. So Tesla's making sure these new materials can handle crazy temperatures, humidity, UV rays, and even resist catching fire. They don't want your dashboard melting if you leave your car at the airport in Phoenix for a week. So yeah, Tesla's definitely doing some interesting things with recycled plastics and other materials inside their cars. But let's zoom out for a second. Is this really solving the plastic waste problem? Or is it more like a really good start? To get a better sense of what's going on, let's look at how Tesla runs their factories. They're all about efficiency. Like, at their gigafactory in Shanghai, only about 4% of their waste is stuff they can't recycle. The other 96% paper, plastics, metals gets recycled. And in 2023, they said they recycled about 90% of all the waste from making cars and batteries. That's a pretty big deal, especially when you think about how much trash a regular car factory can crank out. And this is a big but Tesla's main focus when it comes to recycling isn't actually plastic. It's batteries. And honestly, that makes sense. Batteries are the heart of electric cars, and they're packed with valuable stuff like nickel, copper, cobalt, and lithium. Tesla's built their own battery recycling system, and they say they can recover about 92% of the materials from old batteries. In 2023 alone, they recycled enough battery material to make batteries for around 43,000 Model Y cars. They're super proud of the fact that none of their old batteries end up in landfills. Everything gets recycled. So if you're thinking Tesla's out here leading the charge against plastic waste, it's a little more complicated than that. They're definitely making moves using recycled plastics in interiors, cutting down on waste in their factories. But their main environmental push is all about batteries and clean energy. The plastic stuff is more like a side quest than the main storyline. And here's where things get a little weird. Elon Musk, the guy at the top, has actually said on Twitter, well, X now, that plastic recycling is pointless. He didn't really explain why, but it's kind of a strange thing to say when your company is literally using recycled plastics in its cars. It is one of those classic Musk moments where you are not sure if he is trolling or if there has some master plan we're just not seeing yet. But let's be real. Even with all the cool patents and recycled materials, Tesla's not the only one doing this. Other car companies are jumping in too. Polestar, for example, is making car carpets out of old fishing nets, and they're using plant-based stuff for dashboards. BMW's i3 has panels made from natural fibers and recycled plastic bottles. Ford's even putting parts made from ocean plastics in the Bronco Sport. So Tesla's in good company, but they're not exactly miles ahead of everyone else when it comes to tackling plastic waste. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Does any of this actually matter? I mean, is using a few recycled bottles in a car seat really going to save the planet? Honestly, it's not going to fix everything overnight. The global plastic waste problem is massive. We're talking about millions of tons of plastic ending up in landfills and oceans every year. What Tesla and the rest of the car industry is doing is more like chipping away at the edges. It's progress, but it's not a silver bullet. That said, every little bit helps. If you can take what would have been trash and turn it into something useful that lasts for years, that's a win. And if more companies follow suit, it starts to add up. Plus, it gets people thinking about where their stuff comes from and where it ends up. That's a mindset shift we probably need if we were ever going to make a real dent in the waste problem. But let's not kid ourselves. Tesla's not out here single-handedly saving us from plastic waste. They're part of a bigger movement in the car world and, honestly, in manufacturing in general, toward using more recycled and sustainable materials. It's a step in the right direction, but we're still a long way from solving the whole mess. And if we're being totally honest, the car industry as a whole has a long way to go. Cars are complicated. They're made from thousands of different parts, and a lot of those parts are still plastic, metal, or other stuff that's tough to recycle. Even if you make the seats and dashboards out of recycled bottles, there's still a ton of other plastic in the wiring, the trim, the buttons, you name it. So, while it's awesome that Tesla and other companies are pushing for more sustainable interiors, there's still a lot of work to do. One thing that's kind of cool, though, is how these changes can ripple out. When a company as big and influential as Tesla makes a move, other companies pay attention. Suppliers start investing in new materials. And suddenly, it's not just car seats that are made from recycled bottles. It's furniture, electronics, maybe even the packaging your next gadget comes in. So even if Tesla's not solving the plastic waste problem all by themselves, they're helping push things in the right direction. And who knows, maybe in a few years we'll see even more radical changes. Maybe car interiors will be made entirely from stuff that used to be trash. Maybe we'll have new kinds of plastics that break down naturally, or ways to recycle old car parts into brand new products. The technology's moving fast, and companies like Tesla are definitely helping to drive that change. So, to wrap it up, is Tesla solving the plastic waste problem with technology? Not really, not yet anyway. But they're making some pretty cool moves, and they're definitely part of the solution. They're using recycled materials, making their factories more efficient, and showing that you can build high-tech, desirable products without trashing the planet quite as much. It's not perfect, and there are definitely some contradictions, looking at you, Elon. But it's a start. And honestly, that's kind of how progress works. It's not one big leap, it's a bunch of small steps, sometimes in weird directions, sometimes with a few stumbles along the way. But as long as we keep moving forward, keep asking questions, and keep pushing companies to do better, we'll get there. If you found this interesting, don't forget to subscribe for more stories about tech, sustainability, and all the ways the world is changing, sometimes faster than we realize. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next one.